Yeah.
There it is. Okay, we'll get back to business. Just a few reminders about our upcoming schedule. No meeting next Thursday, June 26th. Pardon me.
Next 2 Thursdays.
Yes, right, the next 2 Thursdays. So no meeting next Thursday, but we will meet on Monday, June 30 at Crush for the change in the guard. Thanks to all of you who have responded. And it looks like we have a nice crowd.
About 26 is the latest
26
number.
right now, and then
Room for some more.
did you see my email? Ken had emailed me to say he wants to attend.
So maybe 27. Open for more. I don't know. You have to give a number to the caterer here at some point.
Right, so on, let's see, on Monday, I will be putting in the order for the food.
4 days from now.
Yep,
Okay.
so.
I'll make a last pitch.
There's
in
time
the bulletin.
For people to sign up yet.
Is it likely to go up or is it likely to stay the same?
It might go up a couple. I don't know.
Yeah, something, are you concerned?
Well, I'll just put a second bartender on it. It's gonna hit 30. I just want to make sure that everybody's comfortable.
Okay,
Not that heavy drinkers, right? Don't break that much.
It only takes one.
That is.
it takes one.
We know who you are.
We'll be patient and wait our turn. But thanks, Paul. Thank you for that.
What's that?
So they know we're not here.
Yeah, so Jose, no,
Yes,
next 2 weeks.
I did inform you, yes, yep. Put it on his
What is
calendar.
the start time Monday again?
5:30.
Oh, they did.
Yep, 5:30, right? Yeah, 5:30. So, and then on July 3rd, we also don't have a meeting, but again, we have our concert at the park. And it looked like the signups were pretty good. And when I signed up for Friday cleanup, I thought that we were full. Am I reading that wrong? No?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Jerry's gonna be there. I'm gonna be, Mark's there with the trailer. I think we're good on Friday mornings.
No, I meant on Thursday. Do we need more help on Thursday?
Oh, there might be one, but I think we're pretty good.
Okay,
I think we could use a couple more during the peak times.
Okay.
Later.
During the peak time.
evening.
all right.
Just don't know. We hope for good weather. Nice, sunny and 76 would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
We'll see. I know the village is doing a lot of promotion for it because it's the 120th anniversary of the village as well. So if the weather's good, should have a good turnout, should build through the afternoon and peak 5, 6, 7, and then the fireworks. So hopefully the weather's good and it's good for everybody.
Awesome. Okay, and
Right now,
then,
82 degrees, below 63, 24% chance of rain.
24,
24% chance.
2 weeks out.
They
2 weeks
put,
out.
they put that on there all
Did you know that 47.2% of all statistics are made up right on the spot?
I had
Sally does a nice job. with that.
I had 6 years of weather school to tell you that I wouldn't go based on that.
And then, of course, on July 12th, we have Kids from Wisconsin concert, and it seems like things are moving along with sponsorships and.
They are sponsorships. We're gonna have more posters. Ticket sales are picking up. I was glad to see when I checked last night. Some buyer bought 15 tickets, 15 adult tickets. So obviously they were bringing together ticket buys for different people that they know. So we're up to 161 tickets. If we double that or go a little more, so it's averaging about 10 or 15 per day, and it should continue through the next 4 weeks. So yeah, right now it looks like it's coming together. More tickets, of course, would be great.
We're gonna print some more flyers next week.
Okay,
Steph will be back and then we'll probably bring them in here, spread around town.
that sounds good.
That's the key, is just that people make a conscious decision that they don't want to attend. And I sent out an email this past weekend to the 500 and something people that have bought tickets to our shows in the past. I'll send that out at least one more time just to remind them, if especially if they've attended Kids from Wisconsin last year, if they're available. Hopefully they will come back. I've seen clips of their rehearsals and things like that. Talented kids. It's gonna be another good show.
Excellent. Any other items of business before we do happy finds?
No.
All right, great. All right, Jerry, can we do happy finds?
What do you have, an anniversary? Yes.
I got 2 happy finds.
All right.
Leaving for Alaska on Saturday.
Nice.
Nice cruise with
my wife and daughter and son-in-law,
Awesome.
and I have a birthday, big birthday,
There you go.
while we're gone.
Well, happy birthday.
65.
Finally hit 70?
84.
Wow.
Cool.
Saturday's 39 years for me and Rhonda.
Well, congratulations.
Good.
84. Dennis, you could tell somebody you're 74. They'd be like,
And I'm on.
Told Paul that.
Probably fell out of there. Okay.
Here, I
looked at them.
want,
No, I don't really.
the Brewers to win today.
Oh,
Beat the
yeah.
Cubs.
yeah, Mizrowski's pitching. We'll see. And
I know, but that's all I have.
I'm happy for the Juneteenth holiday. I don't have to go in the office today. Markets are closed. Not that I want the markets to be closed, but it is. It's a federal holiday, so I don't know if the banks are open. They're
I'm
not.
gonna ask, Mark, our guest, to pull a ticket, but by the way, shout out to Mark and Lynch for helping us. Supporting Rotary all these years. And McGuire.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
You bet. Great.
Last three are 2, 4, 8.
Ooh.
Just a little bit after us, Mark.
that would be me.
Oh.
Have a good trip.
Here's your birthday money. Spend it all.
Don't spend it all in one place. Worth another drink.
There you go.
See, the light shines on every event.
Yeah.
And actually, I did forget one business item, I'm sorry. But we want to also welcome a new Rotarian. So Melinda Wandra is officially a Rotarian for the Montego Club. So thank you for joining us.
All right.
And as I told Melinda, I need to schedule a time for her classification speech along with Ally Carson. We haven't done hers either. So sometime this summer, we'll get that on the schedule and we'll hear more about you and your business, and that we'll look forward to that. So thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Awesome.
Okay, so on to our speaker for today. Please welcome Mark Greene, who is the general manager for Lynch of Mukwonago. Mark has been in the auto industry for 35 years. He's been with Lynch since 2010. Came here to Mukwonago, was in East Troy, came here to Mukwonago when Lynch bought the dealership and moved here. And so Mark and his wife, Michelle, have two sons, Gabe and Peyton. We'll see a little bit about them here in a few minutes. But one of the big reasons I asked Mark to come, and not only do they help us out here with the Rotary Club, but they have such a big footprint here in the Mukwonago community. And as a former superintendent, I can speak to that. A tremendous amount of help for our school district, donating money for the naming rights for the football field and other sponsorships, donating really helpful equipment for our auto program at Mukwonago High School. But not only doing that, but also hiring kids at Lynch, those that are interested in the auto industry. So all sorts of valuable help from Lynch for the school district and other parts of the community. So really looking forward to hearing all about you guys, Mark. So thanks for joining us.
No, thank you.
Come on up.
All right. Actually, I'll probably just go off the screen.
That's
all right.
fine. However, it's meant to be informal.
So I haven't presented in a Rotary type situation before, so
Ah.
when Sean had asked me, and went over, I thought I'll just, tell you about the Lynch family, a little bit about me and our conditions, our automotive conditions, of today. So, and plus anything else, if anybody has any questions, wanna, see what's going on in the car business or anything that we do, feel free to ask. All right, very
Just
informal.
hit that arrow there and it'll advance.
Okay.
Like I said.
Perfect. All right, first off, I want to introduce the Lynch family. David, Judy, Mary, Michael, and Patrick. David, actually is the father started, the grandfather started. David, was handed the baton, very genuine family, grew up in Burlington. They're brother, sisters, they're also best friends. If they get into a squabble, I'll be honest, I laugh in the background because they would be at their house, for dinner and wine that night. They're that tight of a family. Never have a conversation that I have with David that he won't say thank you. Not only to me, but to any of the employees. He was retired 6 months in Naples, 6 months on Browns Lake. And when he retires, he retires. He doesn't make a decision. He'll listen and see what's going on. And if you ask his feedback, he'll say, oh, that's up to you guys now. My time's done. If he'd come in, even when he was working, he was a very simple man. He wasn't the suit and tie necessarily guy. He was, shorts, sandals, socks, polo shirt, and a cup of coffee. And very good family. Fortunate to be a part of it.
And Michael and Patrick are the sons and are gonna be taking over the business?
They have taken over
They
the
have taken
business,
over.
yes, along with Mary Lynch. So how it works. Their roles are defined extremely well. We have automotive stores and Patrick Lynch runs the automotive stores. Kenosha, Burlington, my direct boss here in McGuanago, and West Bend. Michael Lynch would be right here. Michael runs our truck centers. We have a truck center in Chicago, Waterford, and newly in the past few years in Denver. And then Mary Lynch on the side over here, that's Judy. Mary runs LDV. The Lynch family also owns a manufacturing company. Snap-on tool trucks. We build 99% of them in the world. Mobile command units, military command posts, mobile medical, mobiles, tour buses, built Oprah's tour bus, Kid Rock's tour bus back in the day. Any specialty use vehicle we build. And it's unique. David started that in one stall in the service department back in the late 70s. Snap-on. He had a relationship with a gentleman at Snap-on, and he had approached David and said, hey, we have this vision of putting tool trucks out on the road and selling tools. And here's the plan. Do you think you could build one? David looked at the plan and he's like, shit, I think I can make this happen. Started building it a couple months later, he's finished. Brought in, the team from Snap-on to show him, the completed product, and they said, we want to mass produce these. So David mortgaged the farm. Maxed out every credit card, borrowed on his home to get the facility and the equipment needed. Snap-on came to him and said, oh, our shareholders want to wait. Oh, and he's like, well, what do you mean? I just, he had built all the infrastructure. And they said, sorry. So in the interim, that's when he started looking at other things, to do to keep the guys going. And about a year later, Snap-on came back and said, hey, we're ready. And it's kind of taken off from there. We're up to just over 400 employees working 3 shifts. The manufacturing end of it is probably booked for the next 2 to 3 years with it. And it's all high quality. It's a lot of times you'll see the RV chassis and it's, just a nest of wires all the way through. Anything that comes through the LDV is high quality, quick connectors in which they are all patent. So it's definitely a niche business. But it was something that just organically grew throughout the course of the time.
Look again.
Perfect. Kind of goes over the timeline of when David Lynch's dad, John Lynch, got into the business back in the 1950s. There was an automotive dealers group called Humphrey. I don't know if anybody remembers Humphrey.
No.
Up on Wisconsin Avenue.
The 84-year-old guy does.
The what?
I remember.
84-year-old guy
yep.
does.
So,
Tom Horter.
yes, with Tom Horter, the Token family as well, came through Humphrey. What was unique about a Humphrey is they cultivated new dealers. So the Humphrey family, what they did is they would take their best salesman, make them a general manager, and then from there they would put them in dealerships, around the state, even into Illinois. And the operator would pay the Humphrey family over the course of the years, and at the end of the term, the dealership would be theirs. Token, Rank, Lynch, Porter, and there's others that came up through that. So it was, a unique way to end up owning a dealership. Not many of the groups around the country. There's one that does it, Terry Taylor. He's probably the biggest private dealer in the country. He does that same concept for others around the country. So 1965, David came into the business over at Humphrey. They lived in Wauwatosa. 1965, as part of the evolution with the Humphrey family, the Lynch family, or the Humphreys, had helped set up the Lynches in Burlington. 1975 is when David started building the Snap-on tool trucks, in the service department. In 1977, LDB was formed. And in 1984, David took over all the operations for the Lynch family.
I think you're hitting the wrong button.
Oh, am I? Which one?
You're hitting that, but hit this right.
That's
there.
okay. I'm sorry. Did I miss one? 1989, we expanded into the truck business, the medium duty truck, specifically also tow trucks. 1996, we buy the GMC franchise from the Farm Implement in Burlington. 2000, we acquire Buick and Olds. In 2003, we expanded to Chicago. The tow truck business ended up taking off for us, and there was very few players in the country that did it. We have a relationship with Miller Industries, who's one of the largest tow body providers in the country, and we literally drop ship, even out of McGuanago, 200 tow trucks a month around the country, and we don't even touch them. From a financial perspective, when I started 10 years ago, we did about $2 million. We had a $2 million floor plan line of credit for the tow trucks. And over the course of the last 15 years, we are now up to 50 million. So the business has grown, but with 50 million, there's also, some risks there, especially with the interest rates, going up. So we're turning up. 2005, we opened the brand new facility in Burlington, the GM Superstore. Roughly, I think it's 50,000 square foot facility, which in today's, business sense is way too big. That is our corporate flagship, so we could use the extra space there with some of the office, but the footprints of a dealership today are more in line with what we have here in McGuanago, just to keep the overall, rent factor in line. 2006, they bought the Chrysler franchise in the East Troy from the Rezenkowski family. And it took a while for that one to get going a little bit. We had the Jeep franchise in Burlington, and Chrysler at the time wanted to have all their brands under one roof. So they ended up giving the Jeep franchise over to Miller. And in return, Patrick bought the Chrysler store in East Troy. 2012, we acquired Horder Chevrolet here in McGuanago. The relationship between Tom Horder and David started in Wauwatosa back when they were kids. They grew up together and went through the Humphrey organization. So they were pretty tight. And over the course of time, the manufacturers put demands, especially on Mr. Horder, being in a smaller community, and David had helped out. So David and Tom were business partners for a lot of the years that Tom was here in McGuanago. In the same year, in 2012, CarMax had lost their Chevrolet franchise down in Kenosha, and they had approached Patrick and said, we'll give you the point in Kenosha because we had a good track record with them if you build a dealership, the building down there. So we started our footprint in Kenosha back in 2012 as well. In 2015, first of all, I got to rewind a little bit. When I first started with Lynch, I started with LDV. All right. At LDV, the manufacturing company, and I came from a long history in the car business, which I'll get into. I started in the business 35 years ago. I started as a lot attendant in college, needed beer money. And I saw a job board. I went to Marquette High, and on the job board, there was, the position posted on the job board. And I was going to UWM for college, and I saw that Brager Chevrolet was on the bus line for UWM, so I could get to work, and the hours were from, they're accommodating for school. So I had started out as a lot attendant and ended up staying there for 16 years. I left vice president, so I did multiple jobs within the dealership. So when I came out to East Troy, or when I came to the Lynch family, I started at LDV in their manufacturing, starting to sell some of their trucks. That business is different from the automotive. So when I came into work, all I heard were keyboards clicking, and they had me in a cubicle. And I came out of, 15, 16 years in retail. After 3 days at LDV, I told the Lynch family, I said, I can't do it. It's not for me. I got to be around people more, and that's when Patrick said, shit, just go GM my East Troy store. When I got to East Troy, it was a culture shock for me. Tumbleweeds going down the street at 5 o'clock. I was like, oh, what in the hell did I get myself into here? In the store, I'll be transparent, this store wasn't performing well. I mean, it was losing money every year. But the family put a couple million into it to keep it afloat over the course of the years. I'm like, geez, what am I going to do here? But I rolled up my sleeves, and within a year and a half, got it profitable. Was able to pay the family back, what they had put in, but I knew I couldn't stay in East Troy. I had to get the Chrysler store to Mukwonago because that's where the action was. So I started looking for land, and I found some land. The Lynches thought I should be down at the north end of town, down by Culver's. And I had moved out to the community when I had gotten the position. So I would take the boys and my wife, and we'd go to Culver's, and we'd sit and pick and save parking lot. And I would watch all the traffic turn on NN. Nobody was going north on 83. So I'm thinking, geez, this is a disaster. We might as well, keep the hoarder building where it is. But I kept looking, and I came to terms, thanks to the village in a lot of ways with the Greenwald family. And, I presented it to the Lynch. I said, hey, I have this parcel that I want you guys to look at. And they were still kind of bent on the north end of town. But with the Lynch family, I had to separate them. So I'd bring Michael in and show him my vision, along the interstate. And we'll cut the trees and we'll see it. I got Michael's vote. Then I brought Mary individually and, showed her my vision and got her vote. Patrick, and he'll deny this if you see him, but he still thought we should be on the north end of town. He ended up not voting, but I had 2 out of the 3 votes. So I was able to proceed, with building in Mukwonago along the interstate.
That was a good decision too.
Very good decision. Yeah, where the exposure's there. So we moved into the facility, and obviously we had a model, there, and I thought, geez, I'd like to have the Ford franchise. So I called up John literally within a couple days of moving into the new facilities, and asked him if he'd be interested in selling. And he had no interest at that point in 2015, 2016. But I called him, once or twice a year, for the next 5 years. And finally he said, let's go to lunch. And I called up Patrick and I said, Patrick, we're going to go to lunch with John. And he's like, Mark, for what? I said, we're going to try to buy that Ford store in Mukwonago. He's like, all right. So he picked us up, and next thing you know, we acquired the Ford dealership as well. We also opened up Bob Fish. Anybody know Bob Fish in West Bend?
Yes.
Yeah. good family guy, ran the dealerships, big community guy up in West Bend as well. When Bob Fish died, General Motors called us and said, hey, we have an opportunity, north of Milwaukee, would you be interested? And we went up, took a look at it, and it's been a good acquisition for us as well. Community very similar to McGuanago, bigger, but the same close knit. Proud to be there as well. Talked about the Ford dealership, bought that in 2020. Also in 2020, our truck center down in Chicago. It was it was kind of in a bad area. I mean, our tenant was a strip club, next to it. But it was a big facility where we could put a lot of trucks, but we knew we had to move. So we actually in 2020 bought a medical facility, which now we manufacture tow trucks out of there. 2021, our tow truck distributor said, hey, we have a huge need out west. We'd like you to set up operations, somewhere out in west, preferably Denver. And we did, and it's coming along. Hiring there, recruiting has been a challenge, to say the least. That's one story we definitely had to modify our drug testing policy, with marijuana, and it's the majority of the candidates. So that was also new for us. What about me? My wife, Michelle, my two boys, picture of us just a couple weeks ago in London. Story about my boys, it was unique, and McGuanago's a part of that. We're a Milwaukee family, grew up in the city, never envisioned being this far out away from Milwaukee. I mean, all the way through. And in fact, we lived in New Berlin before we moved out here, and that was the farthest. I thought that was too far away. My boys went to St. Mary's in Hales Corners. I went through 12 years of Catholic education. Thought they would go, do the same. So they were at St. Mary's from 3K on, and Sean, you know the story a little bit. And when we moved out here, I thought change would be good for them, and everybody at St. Mary's knew them. They didn't have to work or, to meet new people and interact. And I just thought being a part of the community, had a change of heart, brought them to McGuanago. My youngest started at Clarendon with Miss Christensen. My oldest started at Parkview. And he had played, baseball. My oldest did the summer before he had started. So he'd met a few kids. But I tell you what, on day one of school, he came home and he had a terrible day. I'm like, dude, what happened? And he's like, Dad, he goes, I went up to the group of the popular kids. They walked away. I said, all right. And he goes, well, I go up to the nerdier kids. They walked away from me too. And that was the first for him. When he was at St. Mary's, he knew everybody. As a parent, my initial reaction, because he was pretty worked up that day. I mean, his eyes were swollen, was, hey, you can go back to St. Mary's. And, deep down, that was an option. I said, Gabe, tomorrow will be better. No, it won't, Dad. Well, we'll see, because you're going. Next day, it was better. Better. And he's on the honor roll. He's playing basketball, baseball, having the time of his life. So it transitioned extremely well. So then high school starts. I'm a Marquette High alum. And the day they were born, it was never an option for them not to go to Marquette. So I started saving early. And my oldest wanted to stay in McGuanago. And I started considering it, because he was doing so well. The teachers are great. But I changed my mind. He thought he was going to go to McGuanago, and he took the test, got in, and he goes, Dad, but I can go to McGuanago, right? And I said, nah. I said, you're gonna go to Marquette. He goes, I'm not going to Marquette, Dad. He goes, I'll fail out. And I said, well, that doesn't mean you're gonna go to McGuanago, you know, because he wanted to go back to McGuanago. I said, I feel so strong about it, I'll move out of the district. I'll move back to Milwaukee and you can go to Bayview, you know, somebody to an MPS school. He did not like it, so our relationship was rocky for the first 2.5 years of high school. But he now sees it was well worth it. He had his McGuanago connections, now his Marquette connections, and now I see his Marquette and McGuanago friends. They're all, you know, connect. So that has grown.
Yeah, about 5 minutes or so.
What? I have
About
5 minutes?
five
Okay.
minutes.
My youngest son, when it came up to him, not an option. You're going to Marquette. So he didn't even fight me on that. And they both graduated from Marquette. My oldest just graduated from Creighton University in Omaha, and my youngest is a sophomore there. So, sorry to keep long-winded here.
Sorry, it's okay.
Obviously, community is very important to not only me, but the Lynch family. Anything within the community, especially kid focus, we try to participate in. You know, selfishly, the kids are our future employees, along with our future car buyers. I believe in the youth apprenticeship program. Like Sean said, I have kids constantly in the program that are doing it. And there's a couple that are going to be my best techs going forward. So, you know, not only is it the right thing, but it's also important for us from a business perspective. Registrations, real quick to go through these slides. What's selling in Wisconsin to talk cars? Trucks and SUVs. 80% of the registrations out there. You see in the compact SUV segment, you know, obviously I'm going to talk about the Chevy being number 2. Honda CR-V has eaten our lunch the last couple of years. Leasing, they have the inventory and they have aggressive leases out there. The midsize SUV, you have the Traverse Blazer, the Grand Cherokee, Subaru Outback coming up, popularity all the way through. From the small SUV, again, you have the Trax Trailblazer, you know, that we sell with the Subaru Crosstrek leading the registrations in southeastern Wisconsin in that segment. Mid-sized pickup truck, Toyota Tacoma has led that market the last couple of years, with Colorado being second. GMC's usually up there too. They had some inventory constraints. Full-size pickup truck, Ford is, you know, the king there, Silverado. Coming in second, GMC and Ram. One thing with the Ram was number 2 up until 2021. And they have lost market share a little bit. Hemi went away. They went to the Hurricane, took away the Hemi. Customers really like the Hemi, but that is coming back now. Overall registrations in the Milwaukee area, you have Honda 2700, Chevrolet right behind them at 2400. That gap will close as truck season, you know, comes in the fall. Does every year with Ford coming up as well. So Honda, Chevy, Toyota, Ford. You know, the one to really watch, Subaru has grown in market share substantially in all segments over the course of the year. New car growth. We are anticipating new car growth over the next 2 years. Couple things, we're anticipating interest rates to come down a little bit. All right. Also having the manufacturers subvet the interest rates. They're going to focus on that coming up more, which will help the used car market. Used car inventory is still a challenge. Price of used cars. The pricing is still volatile. We talked about it earlier, some separations from a new car to a used car, it's not there, you know, so a lot of situations you have to do your due diligence on the used car market. Also, a little bit on the inventory. Manufacturers have not been leasing over the last several years. So that's going to contract, you know, the lease turn-ins as well, those program cars. Average car payment out there right now is $768 a month. Average age of a vehicle on the road is 12.6 years.
What would you say the average term length is? Are people 6, 7 years?
It's 66 months, 66.
5.5 years.
Yeah. Electric vehicles, real quick to touch that segment. Electric vehicles came on strong. All right. We had a lot of pressure from the manufacturer, obviously the government as well, to go all electric. I feel they jumped the gun, and I think today's market kind of confirms that. Pricing, the cost of the EV vehicles, not only the initial acquisition costs, but battery costs, replacement battery costs have all been a factor in it. Best way to own an EV right now, in my opinion, is you have to lease it. You turn it in at the end, and their lease programs, move some of these inventory over the next couple of years will be pretty aggressive as well. Everything's on the bubble right now with the tax credits most likely going away. All right, manufacturers made it very clear, without those tax credits, they can't build these cars. They lose too much money. So over the next couple months, it'll be interesting. My position in McGuanago was to drag my feet from day one. The initial investment to go all EV was probably north of 2 million to do it right. And I kind of saw this coming, and I saw that the margins on the EVs are not there. I mean, on average, you make nothing, to move an EV. The manufacturer gives you the money, to sell it. Yeah. So I drug my feet, and initially I kind of got myself into hot water with the manufacturer, saying that I didn't believe in the EV program. But I think at this point I probably played it right. I can still charge EVs. I just didn't buy their $1 million chargers, quick chargers. I bought all the service equipment. I can service them as with anybody else. So it's kind of a wait and see. A lot of dealers are suing the manufacturers around the country because they made that investment, and now the program fell off.
The money will be in the service anyway, will it not?
It will, but even there, the money in the EV is software. Believe it or not, it is all software.
It's not oil changes.
With everything, tire rotations. Yeah, the maintenance isn't as robust as on a combustion motor. Okay. But it's a completely different way to conduct business going in the future. We are fighting certain situations now where the manufacturers want to sell to the consumer direct, similar to Tesla. Right. In that, in fact, I've met with Julie and Bradley multiple times, in regards to this. In doing that, the consumer has zero protection going forward. There's a lot of different caveats on it, but obviously I believe in the dealer end of it, for the consumer. So it's that's been an issue. Do I think the hybrid will end up graduating and taking over a little bit more? I do.
Hybrids really aren't that much more expensive, are they?
No.
I mean,
No.
I have a hybrid and I get 43, 44 miles to the gallon, and it's great. And it wasn't
Right.
that much more expensive than
No.
the non-hybrid
normal,
version.
right. That's what I have right now. What questions do you have?
I just have one. What percentage of the top line revenue is new car sales for the organization?
Overall revenue from new cars, probably 25%.
25%?
Yep.
Okay.
And of that 25%, let's say of the profitability on a new car, over half of that comes from the manufacturer and an incentive to the dealer to sell that car.
Okay.
All right. What we look at is called fixed absorption, right? Where I can have service, parts, and body shop or fixed operations cover all the bills in the dealership without selling.
Sure.
Oh, sure.
You buy your car today, and you own it for the 5 to 10 years that, say that is average that they own.
Yep.
What happens when you're getting out to those 10 years and basically your car is a laptop built into the dash? What happens with the software and all that? I mean, you managing that, or are you updating it?
We are there. Anything with the and I want to pretty much say 2018 or newer, they have over-the-air updates where they're,
It's automatically.
yep, going through. If you don't have it, and that doesn't go through on all the vehicles, we do software updates all the time when you bring it up.
You recommend, I mean, wink, wink, nod, nod, do you recommend getting rid of a car by a certain amount of years so that you aren't facing software problems?
Not necessarily software problems at all. I do recommend, lifestyle or life cycle management where you maximize your trade at 50,000, 75,000, 100,000. Just on overall residual resale value. With miles on it.
And that 12.6, you're probably seeing more cars that are over that $100,000 or that 100,000 mile. Because the average use with commuting and everything else isn't at 9 to 10,000 a year, right?
Correct.
So those cars are accumulating.
They are. And in fact, from a car perspective, not SUV or truck, the average age of a car is just under 15 years nationally.
How many people do you guys employ in McWanago?
In McWanago, we are at 170. Yeah, full and
That's-
part-time.
And then what's the most difficult position to hire? Is the technicians, are there enough?
Now, technicians have been a challenge to get, and the best way to acquire the technicians, I'll be honest, are the schools.
Yes.
But most importantly, you need that mentor or a couple mentor technicians in your shop to bring the kids up right. Because you'll have a seasoned, fully trained technician that can't produce anything, but they have all the training in the world. You want that right mentor. And I've been blessed, especially at our Chevy store, to have that. I have them at our Stellana store. I do have one. I was able to pick up a guy over at our Ford store, but I have constantly a kid, an apprentice, a trainee with them to go. But the training's been hard to get. And we also have a relationship with WCTC, and they almost canceled the automotive program at WCTC not that long ago. I called Mike Scheil, the dean out there, and I said, hey, word on the street is you're doing away with the automotive program, specifically the GM program. And I said, that concerns me. And he said, well, Mark, here's the story. He goes, we started the year in the GM program with 20 healthy enrollment. He goes, I lost half after either 6 weeks because they didn't want to go work at the dealership. All they wanted to do was stay at school. And part of the program, you're in school 6 weeks, and then what you learned in that 6 weeks, you go apply it at the dealership. So, half the class just didn't want to work. And then he said, I lost half of the 10 because they didn't want to take the general education requirements. He goes, so I made it a certificate program. And I said, well, I don't know if I agree with that, Mike. And he goes, I'm trying to keep the program afloat. So it's a little bit of the youth today. It's sometimes I have to hire, 5 to get one, that wants to work. I worry about that work ethic with my own kids, you got to go out and get it. But there are still those kids that work. I mean, I have a 22-year-old over at my Chevy store, from the area. He'll make 130,000 or more this year. Great kid, all the way through. Comes in early, stays late. Whatever.
Is he in a leadership position, or is
No.
is he fixing cars?
He's fixing cars.
I was gonna ask you kind of what the wages ability is, so if
And the
you're,
technicians, I have technicians making over 200,000 within our stores.
Really?
Yes.
Why that's not a motivator, I don't understand that.
Right.
I just don't.
And I'll be honest, when we go to the schools, we preach.
Sean would like start training tomorrow.
Right. I mean, we preach to the kids. I mean, we're always in front of the kids. I mean, letting them know, and the apprentices see it, the guys that are doing well. And, and I've talked to the Lynch family on this and to some other educators. We need to get to the parents.
Yeah.
Right.
And let them know you know, the opportunities within our business. I mean, I started in the car business at $3.35.
Well, when you see your breakdown and the part is $29.95 and the labor is $840, that's what it goes toward.
Yeah, it's,
But
It
it's not
is.
like it was 30 years ago as a technician. That's a huge salary.
oh
For
yeah,
those that are have that skill set
Yeah.
and are willing to work. That's far more than where they're gonna earn anywhere out at 22 or
At that
23
level of
years old.
Oh, right.
education,
Yes,
without being a super salesman or something.
hell, yes.
And that's, but Mark hit it on the head. It is so often the moms and dads that won't allow their son or daughter to consider those options. And you have to get to the parents.
It's gotta be a cultural shift.
It's a
Oh, yeah.
cultural shift. It's a huge cultural shift, and I think there's been some progress, but we still got a long way to go. And
but I know you mentioned the sales end of it. It's not just the technicians. I have actually picked up a couple great kids on the sales end of it that graduated from McWanago 2 years ago. Dom Dornberg,
oh, I know Don.
yeah, Ty Schrader,
Yeah, I do.
great kids, and they're doing extremely well
Oh,
for
good.
themselves.
Happy to hear that.
Great employees. too.
What's the percentage of sales that's lease versus buy?
5 years ago, pre-COVID, I tried to have 30% of my customers lease. All right, a couple things from the dealership end of it. Most likely they'll come back to release, so you want to keep them in that. But leasing options also make the payments affordable. Current market, it's probably less than 15%. Manufacturers aren't sub-vetting the leases. I mean, 4 years ago, you were getting, a lease, no money out of pocket for $299, a decent lease.
Now it's 4,000 up front.
Yeah, pretty much to get it. So we're juggling that, as well.
All right.
All right. Any other questions? Wonderful.
Thanks.
All right.
Mike.
And Mark, one of the focal areas of the Rotary is to eliminate polio in the world. And so we're gonna donate the money in your honor to inoculate 25 children against polio. So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
We appreciate it.
All right.
And if we can
Thank
get a
you.
picture before you run off.
Absolutely.
And then let's finish up today by reciting the four-way test as we leave this meeting and go back out into the world of life and work of the things we think, say, and do. Let us remember to ask ourselves first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will be beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you again.
Hey, have a great week, everybody.
Oh, thank you.
I've never-